Morning. We'll start in just a few minutes. This is Betsy Joy. She's just been in. I was just going to show you. She's just been in complete flow in the garden. It's been really, really lovely. She's just been building some little houses out of leaves and grass for animals, and she's just been in complete flow for about 20 minutes or so. It's that lovely, lovely place that you can find yourself in, which is sort of known as the alpha zone, where you are just focusing with relaxed concentration on one thing, and it gives you real access to, gives your brain complete deep rest and access to your subconscious as well. It's a lovely place to find yourself in. I was going to put the camera on her for a moment, but she spotted me and has now run off. So I've completely obliterated her alpha moment, but anyway. We'll start in just a moment. Hi, Melinda. Hi, Alan Howard. Hi, Tricia. Calm and cloudy Chandlersford. Is that metaphorically cloudy or just literally? Hi, Jane and Phil in Dorset. Betty, Derbyshire. Oh. Kathleen, good morning from across the pond in Cold Spring, New York. Bless you. Good to see you. Hello to everyone who is joining in. Terry, Kim, Rosie, brilliant. It's noon. We ought to start, hadn't we? It's noon and time for another midday moment live. Brilliant to see you. We're nearly at the weekend, aren't we? And we're nearly into Holy Week. Can you believe it? I wonder what you're going to be doing this weekend. Pretty well exactly what you've been doing all week, I guess. Anyway, this is Friday, I think, and what are we going to do today? Why don't we start with that prayer that we were using yesterday from Samuel that Brother Lawrence loves so much. Speak, Lord, for your servant is listening. A nice way into the space. So remember, on the out-breath, speak, Lord, for your servant is listening. And then taking a lovely long in-breath. Speak, Lord, for your servant is listening. Speak, Lord, for your servant is listening. Speak, Lord, for your servant is listening. And once more. Speak, Lord, for your servant is listening. I wonder what you have noticed in the last 24 hours or so since we were here last at noon. I wonder what you've noticed in God, glimpsing God, feeling God's presence with you, practicing the presence of God. You might like to just write a word or phrase down for a moment in the comments if you're able to. Otherwise, just reflect on one moment in particular, perhaps, in the last 24 hours. When you have sensed something of God, or when you have maybe heard in some way, might have been hearing through the fragrance of some blossom, or reading something, or dreaming something. Good to reflect back, isn't it? So that we don't lose these moments, but actually they are like seeds that are sown in the good soil of our heart. Think for a moment too of something that you can just give thanks for, remembering that appreciation is just so good for the soul, especially at this moment. A simple pleasure, simple gift. Noticing the leaves on the trees, Philippa. Taking one day at a time, avoiding worrying about tomorrow. Thank you. Seeing the beauty of spring, Betty. I'm giving thanks, personally, for the fact that in the last couple of days or so, several of you have written in to say how much you are enjoying the latest book that I've written, co-written with Howard, Soulful Nature. And some of you have been saying that you're taking it really slowly. Sandra said she was sipping it, just taking a couple of pages a day to sort of eke it out. But what people have said is that it's actually giving them an opportunity to visualize a walk in nature and to reflect, especially because we can't get out at the moment. We went on 12 walks across 12 months through the 4 seasons and asked how we could make a more meaningful connection, I suppose spiritually, with God's creation, especially for such a time as this. And it all seems like quite a long time ago now, but I thought what I would do today, because I'm feeling quite knackered, would be just to read a couple of short extracts and allow you to visualize the place. One is at a beach and one is in an ancient grove of trees. And use this really as our reflection, if that's okay. Some of you have been reading the book already. But the first extract is when Howard and I went in January down to Kimmeridge in Dorset in the UK on the south coast. We wanted to have a trip to the seaside. And I'm missing the sea at the moment. I don't know about you. I know some of you can get to the sea. We can't. So I wanted to think about the sea for a few minutes. And it's a really beautiful piece of coastline, the Jurassic Coast. If you've never been there, there's a wonderful line of cliffs with just different layers of rocks. And it's like a segment, a cross-section of deep time. And it's a lovely place to go and find fossils. So let me read you this short extract now. And you might like to close your eyes and imagine being at the seaside. What are your thoughts as you look out onto the ocean? What do you see? Asks the eco-theologian Thomas Berry. Howard and I choose to spend an extended time of stillness by the water, watching. He wanders along the shoreline. I stay here at the base of this short cliff. The sun is out and it brightens my face and warms my back through the rocks upon which I lean. This is a blessing, and here there is no rush. Here is stillness. T.S. Eliot writes in his poem Little Gidding of the stillness between 2 waves of the sea. There is a stillness that lies behind all things, that sits within these timelessly breaking waves before us. A stillness, nevertheless, in harmony with the motion of the waves, which together create a rhythm that has pulsed since the first burst of divine energy way back in the beginning, a rhythm that is marking deep time for us still. As you breathe and relax and watch and listen, perhaps you notice something of that rhythm pulsing through you like a heartbeat. You might like to just feel your heart for a moment. Just think about those waves gently breaking. They'll be gently breaking there now, as they have done for so long. And it feels like a long stretch we're in at the moment, doesn't it? But they have been marking time for a lot longer. An elderly couple wander by, his hair as bright as white horses, dignified, hands in the pockets of a greatcoat, trimmed beard, bending to reach for a fossil, scouring, searching. He skims a stone. Perhaps this is where he came as a child. I've played skimmers here with my own children. I can remember my dad teaching me how to skim stones too. And for a moment I can imagine Dad's dad teaching him, and the generations seem to back up with each flat bounce of the old man's throw. We reach a long way back. We reach a long way forward. The cloud of witnesses seems close. Stories weave between us, within us. Howard approaches carrying his camping chair, which for today's purpose is a meditation stool. He stops and stares out to sea. I can't see what he sees, but his wife Jan, he tells me, loves the waves, and she uses them as her centering image. So perhaps he's centering himself now with her and his family and God within this pulsing stillness. This seems like a healing place. When we find healing, we also become a healing for the world around us. A cormorant dives into the spume. Billiard green hills and fields, a row of fishermen's cottages, and pied wagtails bobbing on the cliff top above. So that was January. That was the seaside. For a moment, just close your eyes again. Just see the waves breaking on the shore. Listen for the stillness between the two waves of the sea. And breathe in, if you like, the sea air. And relax your shoulders. Lean against the warmth of that cliff. And know that God is there too. Second short extract. In November, we went to a place called Kingley Vale, which, if you haven't been there and you live in the UK, is near Chichester, and it's absolutely brilliant. It's a nature reserve, one of the oldest nature reserves, one of the original ones that was set up after the Second World War. And there, at Kingley Vale, is the country's oldest grove of yew trees. It's a really, really wonderful place. It's so atmospheric, and I'd never been there before. And we had to crawl in. We took some shelter underneath this one particularly ancient tree, more than 1,000 years old, and its branches had sort of fanned out and dived down into the soil and come back at it up again. So you actually had to sort of crawl right in through these branches and this undergrowth to get into this wonderful kind of almost like tent of a tree. It was like a cathedral when we got in there. So just like to share this with you now. In our passing of time, caught as we are within this particular bit of slow time in Lent and with the coronavirus, crawling into this space, and it does require crawling, reminds me of the days I'd crawl as a little boy under the oversized tablecloth at home when the table was laid to hide. And this is a magnificent hiding place. There aren't many places left to hide in today's culture, especially when our phones are constantly on. Here is where we choose to take 20 minutes of complete stillness in the tree's presence. Howard goes round to the other side of the circle while I rest on a great branch that has fallen. It is so expansive that I can comfortably lie upon it and close my eyes. As I begin to tune in, I imagine it tuning in to me too. After a while, I move to the trunk, dig my feet into the ground, and and lean against it. Try and visualize that for yourself for a moment as I read. It's as if it holds me, and I feel borne along with the weight I have been carrying, the weight of the world, it feels like. I feel as if I could cry. Again, I close my eyes, smoothness against my back. We are in touch. I wonder, is the tree pleased to feel my own close presence? It would be entirely wrong to anthropomorphize this ancient being, yet it does seem to offer a welcome. Finally, I sense a strength, the magnificent strength of the tree, yes, but it's as if there's a strength that resides in me somehow too, a God-given strength which feels in nature very different from the fear-driven strength that we usually try to summon in times of attack or threat. No, here is strength that comes through the assuredness of being, a gentleness, in fact, which seems like a contradiction in terms. This, I guess, is the very strength of love. That ancient grove of yew trees has a beautiful presence. And we might think for a moment about the beautiful presence too of God, who has been here with us all along. I came out of that sort of 20 minutes in the grove of yew trees tangibly changed. I'd been feeling quite anxious and had a few things going on, and I just came out shifted somehow. And it's a lovely thing to do. Perhaps today, if you're able to get out and just feel the bark of a tree, then that might be a healing place for you. One last little thing, and I'm not sure if I mention it in the book, but one last little thing to suggest for the weekend is observing twilight, getting outside or just looking out through the window. The Jewish people observe something called Bein Hashmashot, which is the twilight time before the day starts. The day starts in biblical terms in the evening. And there's this lovely kind of patch between when the sun goes down and when you can see the first 3 stars in the sky. It's a lovely point to step outside and just inhabit twilight and its colours. And that can remind us this weekend that actually the day follows the night in the Bible's eyes, that we pass through the darkness to get to the light. And we may feel at the moment as though we are caught in a time of darkness, but we travel through the darkness to get to the light. We go through the night before the sun rises in the morning. So hold on to that this weekend and step out at twilight, if you remember, and just watch for the first twinkling of the stars. Shall we say the Lord's Prayer to end with? I think we should. Our Father in heaven, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us today our daily bread. Forgive us our sins, as we forgive those who sin against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For the kingdom, the power, and the glory are yours, now and forever. Amen. Okay, seeing as it's the weekend, let me just read you a couple of lines from John O'Donoghue just go on a tiny minute longer. This is a blessing for one who is exhausted. Might be you. Just a few lines at the end which really struck me today that include twilight. Here we go. You've travelled too fast, he says, over false ground. Now your soul has come to take you back. Take refuge in your senses. Open up to all the small miracles you rushed through. Become inclined to watch the way of rain when it falls, slow and free. Imitate the habit of twilight, taking time to open the well of colour that fostered the brightness of day. Draw alongside the silence of stone until its calmness can claim you. Be excessively gentle with yourself. Shall I say that again? Be excessively gentle with yourself. Gradually, you will return to yourself, having learned a new respect for your heart and the joy that dwells deep within slow time. So may you indeed know something more of that joy that dwells deep within slow time today. And don't forget, as we said yesterday, that the greatest thing that you might do today is to do the smallest thing with love. I'm going to have a weekend. I hope you have a good weekend too. I'll be back on Monday morning with a reflection, and on Monday lunchtime at noon with another midday moment. Until then, please do be excessively kind to yourself. Remember that you're not alone. We are in this together. God is in this with us. And all will be well. Bless you. Go well. See you on Monday.